Hi, and welcome to our fourth sheet tutorial. Today I'm going to be going over sheet views. Sheet views are a really cool feature that you can use to embed the information and blocks from sheets elsewhere on the platform. To show you what that means, I have already set up a sheet with a bunch of different views, and I'm going to just show them off now, and then we'll get into how you basically make this happen. So we have this character Delphine. Delphine is playing a hound, and so has this character sheet in which she's filled out, some of this detail. Let's just pretend that that sheet is more filled out than it is, but this is the sheet that Delphine is using in play. I have set up a view, an inspect view, so that when I inspect Delphine as a character, hey, look, all this information is showing up here. And all of these blocks are being pulled directly from the sheet itself. So what that means is that, let's say if I go to this sheet and I fill in an alias here. What's a cool alias? Let's say her alias is Ghost, right? If you look in the inspect view now, hey, that's automatically filled in. This is because views are, well, they're different views. They're the same, they're built off the same core set of data. It's all pulling from this same single sheet, but it's just displaying it differently in different places. So just like there's the inspect view, the other cool thing that I've set up here is a HUD view. So if Delphine is in play, right, she can immediately access her stress bar here without needing to go into her sheet. This just makes this information more accessible. And same thing as with the inspect view, the information here is, since it's all literally the same blocks, it's all the same data, anything that is updated anywhere on the sheet will be updated everywhere else. So just to show up that, see, all that's being updated. And same thing between individual views as well. So here, well, it's going to close it, but if you look here, see, that's just changing. So let's get into setting this up. I'm going to pop back over to Venn here, and we're going to be editing a different sheet. Let's use the cutter for this one, another Blades in the Dark sheet. So from this sheet editing view, you can access views from this top bar here. So you've got your tab bar up here, and then this is the view bar up here. So to add a new view, I'm just going to click this button. And let's start with the inspect view. So when you're editing a view, you have your top bar up here, which is, adding new blocks, but you also have this new sort of bar here. And what this is these are all of the blocks that are on the full version of your sheet. So just like here, if you go look at the full view, you have all these different blocks. What this is doing is that it's grabbing all of these blocks and just shoving them into a row here. So in order to basically add, the information here into the inspect view, all I need to do is just drag down from this bar into this place. So I'm going to set up the same sort of thing, the name, the alias. I'm going to add the stress here. And then I'm going to hit save. And then if I go ahead and make a new sheet, cutter, new sheet, there we go. So now, here, this is assigned to Venn. If I inspect Venn, you can see the inspect view that we just set up shows up here. So next up, I'm going to set up a HUD view. So this is going to work similarly. I'm going to hit plus. I'm going to select the HUD view here. You'll notice I set up this nice background just so you can see what it's going to look like when it's embedded in the HUD. I'm going to add my stress bar here. I could add more information depending on okay, hey, what blocks do I want to be accessible here? But for now, I'm just going to add the stress bar just because I think that's probably on the Blades in the Dark sheet all you really need to access immediately. But you can also, just like you can add different tabs in the full view and the HUD view, you can add different tabs as well. Let's say, for instance, I want to add a notes block here. So I can go to notes. I can add a new tab there, notes. I think there's a notes block. Yep, I'm going to drag in this notes block there. Whoop. And make it a little bit bigger. And there we go. So now if I hit save, you can see immediately it pops up. So I have this main where I can, edit my stress and things like that. Or I have this notes block, which I can type in. Hello, this is a note. And just like before, this is going to be syncing with every other version of the sheet, every other place that it's accessed. Another useful part of views is that block styles are saved individual to each view. By which I mean, let's say if in our HUD view, you see how we have this like label here? I think it's probably unnecessary. If we're in the middle of the play, I probably don't need to see like, okay, hey, that stress, I know what stress is. I don't need a big thing that says stress. So I'm going to, go to the styles menu and select hide label. Now you'll notice here on my full sheet, it hasn't hid the label. This label is still perfectly visible in this view. It's only in this view that the label is hidden. So you can use that to sort of, hide or show information as you need, or just to change the views. Maybe you want the font to be bigger or smaller in different places, depending on where it's showing up. All of those are going to be saved individual to each view to allow for that sort of customization. So the HUD view and the inspect view are probably the simplest views, but there are two more types of views that I would love to show off. So, and those are the block and the deck view. Both of these are used to embed this sheet into another sheet. The block view corresponds to the sheet block. You're embedding it in a specific block. And then the deck view corresponds to the deck block. Let's start with the sheet block because I think it's a little bit easier to understand. And how I'm going to show this off is that I'm going to build a Blades in the Dark GM sheet. So I want to have a sheet that I can use to keep track of all of my players' names and, all of my players' stress while in play. So what I'm going to do is that on this sheet, on this player's sheet, I'm going to add a block view here. And into this block view, I'm just going to drag the stress, and then I'm going to drag the name. And I probably don't need these labels, so just like before, I'm going to go to the Styles menu, select Hide Label, and then Save. So now I'm going to make a new sheet, so a new sheet template. I'm going to say this is Blades GM sheet. And I am to this sheet, I'm going to add just a header up here. And then I'm going to add some sheet blocks. When you add a sheet block, you'll see this choose sheet to display. If I try and do this now, nothing's going to happen because I'm just like editing a template right now. So I'm going to wait on that, but I'm just going to add 2 of these sheet blocks. I'm going to hit save, create a Blades GM sheet. And then I'm going to select choose sheet to display. Now we have 2 sheets here. The sheets that show up here are any of the existing sheets that have block views. So basically, like a sheet has to have the specific embedded view, the specific view that you're trying to embed in order for it to show up in this selection. So I'm going to select Delphine sheet for this left one, Ven sheet for this right one. Oh, hang on. Add Ven's name here. And there we go. Now we have this sheet with these 2 embedded views of these other sheets. If I wanted to, I could even go a level deeper with this. So just like those other sheets have HUD views, I could add a HUD view for this GM sheet. So let's try and do that. And then on the HUD view, I can even just drag in and embed these sheet blocks. If I do that, hit save, and then let me just get a different character real quick. You can see I now have my sheet block view embedded in my HUD, so I can use this. I probably want to do some editing, some styling. I think there's a background color on here that's not necessary. Maybe change the sizing of things. But immediately here, I have a setup where now I can just, while in play, keep an eye on all of my players' like stress and what's going on, all through the use of views. The last thing I'm going to show you is the deck block. The deck block is very similar to the sheet block in that it is embedding sheets within another sheet. So I could create a deck view that's very similar to the block view, for instance, to do a similar setup to our GM sheet, right? So I'm going to do the similar kind of edits here. Hit save. So the difference between the sheet block and the deck block is that the sheet block just embeds one sheet at a time, whereas the deck block embeds multiple and sort of shows them in like a table formation here. So if I click add sheets to deck and I add both of these, you can see it's very similar to our setup from before. It just now is in this scrollable table here. When I hover over these blocks in the deck block, these like embeds in the deck block, I can also select this little button here to automatically link out and open up the linked sheet. In addition to a GM sheet-like setup, the other thing that you can use a deck block for is a spell block kind of setup. And so I'm going to walk you through how to set something like that up. So what I have done here in preparation is I've added a few different spell sheets to this verse. So basically, I've added some sheets here that represent basically 5e spells. In this case, this is Acid Splash. It has just like a bunch of information, you know, pulled from the SRD. And then what I've done here is that I've created a deck view. This deck view is pretty simple. All it is this is the counter from the prepared block, from this block up here, but with the label hidden and it all shrunk down, and then the header block, but similarly with the text made smaller. I could add more info if I wanted onto this page. You can, in the styles menu, for instance, make the deck view wider or smaller. In this case, I'm just going to keep it at the usual 10. And then I've set this card sheet to true. What this card sheet option means is that it won't appear in sheet selection. So if I go back into the verse and I try and create a new sheet, you won't see Acid Splash showing up there. That's basically an ease of use thing, so that if you're adding like every spell in the SRD to your verse, you don't want all of those to also show up next to, you know, sheets for the wizard, you know, the fighter, the rogue. Like you want to keep those things separate. So by setting this as a card sheet, it means it will only be instantiated by deck blocks. I've added a few other spells here with a similar setup. So now that I have those spells set up, I can go to my deck block. I'm going to delete this deck block and just pull in a new one. And I'm going to change one setting on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pull sheets from library. So what pull sheets from library does is it says that instead of pulling from like existing sheets in this session that people are actively using, it's instead going to look in collections for anything that has that card sheet, you know, toggled on, and you're going to be able to choose from those. So in this case, you can see here, I have, all of my spells here to select from. So, and here they all are. And if I select this little button here, you can see it pops up in a new window, this spell card. And this is basically like a newly instantiated sheet. It's stored in the deck block, and it's only accessible through the deck block. It won't show up in the sheet pod or anywhere else, but any edits that I make to this will stay. So if I want to add a little notes section here on like when and where I'm using this, so I'm going to add a long text, down at the bottom here. It's like notes. Then that'll stay on this sheet. Hi. And same thing, if I reopen it, you can see, still there. So it basically is just instantiating all of these embedded sheets into their own little versions here when you select it from the collection. I could add more information if I wanted to. I could make this wider, I could add the level and things like that, but I figured for this, I would just keep it simple. And yeah, so that's how you can use this deck block as a spell book. And that is all the features that we have in Views right now. I'll probably be coming back to this video, updating it if we add more. But yeah, let me know what y'all put together. I'm super excited to see y'all play around with these features. It's always a joy to come into closed beta chat and see people making new kinds of sheets and doing things that I didn't think were possible. So I'm really, really excited to see what y'all make. And again, as I've said pretty much every time, if you run into any troubles, hop into chat, let us know. We'll try and help figure something out. And yeah, thanks so much for watching.